Yo, bro, we're going to talk a little bit about the nature of suffering. And life in itself brings a lot of suffering. This being human and existing in itself is a form of suffering. But we can also add to our suffering when we can find ourselves in a state of indecision, when we know that we have to make a choice, but we're not really sure what choice to make. And so we sit in this state of feeling stuck, not sure what decision to make. And sometimes that decision can involve whether we should continue to engage in a behavior that we know is having a negative impact on our lives. So, if part of the reasons that you feel stuck come from a result of indecision about whether you should continue to drink or eat certain foods or use certain substances that you know are unhealthy for you and that are having a negative impact on your mind, your body, and your soul, then that can be an additional form of suffering on top of the suffering of just being alive and existing in this human body. And so if you're finding yourself stuck in this space of indecision, not being sure how to move forward, there's a few questions that we can explore that can help us and guide us to helping us to make a better decision. And before we go into that space, I want to encourage you to try to practice mindfulness around your physiological state, how your body's feeling. And one of the things that we can do to just regulate our nervous system and bring us to a state where we can make a healthier decision is to tap into the power of our breath. And I like to access the 2-4-6-8 method. As a former New York City firefighter, it was important that I really learned how to regulate my nervous system so I could keep myself calm and relaxed and grounded, and even in hectic and really stressful situations that I could show up and be grounded and ready to do my job. So I would utilize the 2-4-6-8 method. And that's approximately 2 minutes of inhaling deeply through the nose for 4 seconds, holding it for 6 seconds, and exhaling for 8 seconds. And when you breathe in through the nose, you also want to breathe in using your belly or your diaphragm. And if you're not familiar with what that is, you're simply drawing your belly button away from your spine and using the diaphragm to breathe deeply into the belly. And what this does is it can switch us out of an anxious state of fight or flight into a more relaxed state of rest and digest. So 2-4-6-8, 2 minutes, 4-second slow inhale through the nose, 6-second breath hold, 8-second release. Ready? Inhale slowly through the nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale. 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And just continue to breathe slowly through the nose, filling the belly. And when we can bring ourselves into this state, or a relaxed state, we'll notice that it calms both the mind and the body. And from that place, if we're stuck in a state of indecision, it's probably safe to say that if we make a decision from a place of being relaxed and somewhat at peace, that we'll make a better decision. Not always, but hopefully. So if you're stuck in indecision, one of the questions that we can explore is not why do we continue to drink or eat or snort or smoke or whatever, insert here in the blank line, the habit that we're engaged in on a regular basis that is contributing to our suffering. The question isn't why do we want to use? Why do we want to drink? The question is, what is the pain that we are afraid to feel, that we would rather completely numb and distract ourselves from feeling those feelings? And this comes directly from the work of Dr. Gabor Mate. And Gabor Mate worked primarily in some ways with indigenous native people whose suffering runs deep with intergenerational trauma, in the same way that some of the Irish ancestry related to my bloodline, some of their pain and even the use of alcohol, the stoicism and detachment from emotions can come as inherent through our bloodline. And it can be based upon how some of our previous relatives handled and dealt with and managed stress and challenges in their life. And so if we start to recognize that some of the things that we're carrying don't belong to us, the question might be, whose responsibility is it to release this pain? And unfortunately, if you're watching this video and you're exploring the idea of carrying pain, suffering, stress, it's your responsibility. Maybe your mother or father or grandfather, aunts, uncles down your bloodline did not handle stress well. Maybe they contributed to more dysfunction or abuse or trauma, inflicting pain and suffering on themselves and other people in an effort to manage some of the pain that they felt. But if you are developing the awareness as time goes on, our brains, our bodies, our physiology, we evolve. And if you're finding that the ways that you're dealing with the stress of life is not effective, if the substances that are being used are creating more distress and pain and suffering and confusion, and it's not alleviating your problems, then we have to find a better solution. So it becomes your responsibility to break that intergenerational cycle of trauma and pain by confronting it. So you essentially will have to wrestle with the demons that some of your relatives refuse to face or were completely unaware of. But you are aware. You have developed the awareness. Your brain and your soul and your spirit has evolved to confront some of the pain that's been carried through your bloodline and through this world. And so when we look at our suffering as something that we carry based on things that were born into our body or based on things that happen to us in our life, we recognize that we have a choice to make. There's a path that we're on. We can go in one direction or another. The one direction is continue to use and engage in the use of compounds, substances, liquids, devices that we know the chronic use of these numbing and distracting tools will create more pain and suffering in our life. Or we can choose to not engage with those substances, and we can instead choose to face the pain of confronting our demons. And so we're going to make a choice either way to suffer. The question is, what kind of suffering are you going to choose? If you continue to use, you know the suffering that you're choosing. You will feel the anxiety of the compulsion of wanting to use, and then you will engage in that behavior. And then you may go out and temporarily numb and distract yourself from the pain and get drunk or high or whatever. And that may feel satisfying and relieve you from the stress and suffering a bit. And then you'll wake up with a hangover. And when you wake up with that hangover, your nervous system and brain and body will be kind of fried and less capable and prepared to handle the stress of life. Alternatively, you can go the other direction that you're probably not used to, which may seem scary and unfamiliar. And that direction is to choose not to numb and distract yourself from the pain and instead face those demons, maybe wrestle with them, and confront some of the things that are begging to be felt, that have been suppressed and repressed for years and really want to be expressed and let go and released. And it may sound scary, but similarly to things that are in the deep, dark basement, and we're afraid to go down there into the creepy, crawly, scary area and confront some of the things that we're afraid of. If we take some of those things out of that dark, scary basement and we bring it into the light and we look at it and we breathe deeply through it, it's really not as scary as we might think. So sometimes the choices that we make are to stick with the familiarity of the use of a compound, substance, alcohol, whatever it is, to stay on this pattern of receiving temporary pleasure, but also we know that we're destroying our bodies and our minds, and we are just not healthy as we can be. And that seems like a safer alternative than confronting the unknown, because the unknown in itself can just be scary. So I understand that there is an aversion, a reluctance to confronting some of the deeper emotions that might be the source of our pain. But if we dare to look at that pain, and should I say even make friends with that pain, we can then let it go. And instead of it staying inside of us and being something that we want to just push down further or numb and distract ourselves by pouring booze on it, we can release it, let it go, and our compulsion or desire to want to use and just numb out and escape will diminish. So if you're stuck in that spot of indecision and you're not sure which direction to go, nobody's going to force you to stop drinking. But I would invite you to consider sitting with what you're feeling. Tap into that breathing, into the belly. And asking yourself, what is it that I must feel? What is the pain that I am afraid to confront? What are the emotions that I am trying to avoid and escape? And I've found with many of the men that I work with that there are several emotions that we have. And as human beings, all emotions are contained within our human experience, man or woman. And we have to honor the full spectrum of what it means to be a human being. But many times we are easy to want to access emotions like joy and happiness and peace. But we want to avoid emotions like anger, fear, and sadness. Although for men, I find a lot of the times it's much easier for us to access the emotion of anger. At least for me, it was very easy to access anger because when I would try to express sadness, I would be made to feel by others that I was being a crybaby, or if I was upset, I was made to feel weak or less than for having an emotional response to the things that were happening to me. And so, as a young man, as a boy, I was taught to repress and suppress those emotions of sadness and fear out of fear of being seen as less than or weak. And so I developed a suit of armor and a tough exterior to help me to navigate the world and protect myself. And sometimes we wear these masks that can kind of give us this stoic toughness that will help protect us from people seeing our vulnerabilities and our perceived weakness. And what I've come to learn by working with um, men from different fields, and as a former New York City firefighter, um, part of my work is um, to guide other first responders, military, law enforcement, and people that have worked in fields that they've been traumatized regularly and taking on extraordinary amounts of stress and trauma, that the tough exterior and armor that we build up so that we can face some of the difficulties of our work can also be the very things that not only protect us, but they can be the very things that prevent us from feeling the other emotions that need to be felt. And so for men especially, it's maybe easy to be quick to anger, but when we've allowed ourselves to go into a more relaxed state, if we've decided that we're willing to confront some of the emotions that maybe we're not used to feeling or expressing, it can be a cathartic way of dealing with our pain. And catharsis simply means to release and to let go. So if you're feeling stuck and you're sitting with indecision about whether you should continue to drink or use to numb and distract, to attempt to avoid and escape your pain, I would just invite you to consider the possibility that reaching out to connect with yourself, to even watch this video to understand yourself, to want to know yourself and heal yourself, is a deep act of bravery, courage, and strength that many men, even the toughest men you may know, are afraid of. And when we start to see vulnerability, the daring to ask for help, the admission or the inviting in of the opportunity to feel your sadness, to express your grief, to explore your pain, is a radical act of self-love, bravery, and it takes real strength and courage to want to release yourself from the things that you know hold you back. And in many ways, confronting this pain can allow us to walk into the other parts of our lives as men, as fathers, as brothers and sisters, as firefighters and law enforcement, or any profession that you do. Any parts of our lives we can walk into having released some of the things that don't belong to us. We can show up in a more healthy, present, and grounded way. And we can better serve ourselves and the people that rely on us to show up as the best version of ourselves if we are willing to have the bravery and the courage to confront some of the emotions that we've been hiding and suppressing for years. So let's do a little practice. Continue to breathe deeply into the belly. And ask yourself, what is it that I'm afraid to feel? Where is the sadness and the grief and the fear, the jealousy, the insecurity? What are the emotions that I'm afraid to feel that are pushing me to want to numb and distract myself? What are the emotions that I'm afraid to express that cause me to express anger instead because I'm afraid of being seen as less than or weak? If I can acknowledge that daring to explore these feelings is not a weakness but a strength, can I invite myself to sit with my pain? Can I dare to release sacred tears of sadness and grief? Can I mourn the loss of the things in my life that I loved? Can I let go of the things I've been holding on to for far too long, for years? The things that have been weighing me down, the things that have been causing me to be emotionally reactive and on edge and short-tempered and impatient and quick to judge. What are the things that have been holding me back from being free and living up to my potential to become a better version of myself because I'm being weighed down by the things that no longer belong to me? And maybe let the words and the thoughts just take a break as you breathe deeply through the nose into the belly. Take a break from the thoughts and the words and just allow yourself to feel sadness, to feel grief, to feel loss and confusion, to feel the fear and uncertainty about the future, to tap into the resentment and regret about poor decisions you've made in the past. Sit with it and know that you're honoring the truth of who you are, that you have full permission to be a human being, that you have full permission to explore and experience the full spectrum of all of your emotions without shame or guilt. Take a deep breath into the belly and go a little bit further into the place where those wounds that you carry originate, to the source of that pain. Where is the part of you that feels unloved, unlovable, uncared for, neglected, overlooked, abandoned? Where is the part of you that wants to be loved and accepted and seen and heard and understood and cared for and tended to? Breathe deeply into the belly and make some space for that part of you that just wants to be seen and heard. And now that you're a full adult, recognizing that you're responsible for your own well-being, it's your responsibility to tend to those parts of yourself, to offer the love, acceptance, the kindness, the forgiveness, the compassion, and the empathy for yourself. Be kind and gentle to yourself, to the parts of you that have done the best that they can to handle and manage the challenges in your life without any direction or guidance or support. And realize that you are the one responsible for tending to yourself now. That although your parents made some mistakes or might have done a great job or a terrible job or maybe a little bit of both, that they did the best that they could with what they had at the time, that they too were also traumatized and overlooked and abandoned and hurt and abused and neglected. And they didn't have the skills or the tools to teach you how to identify your emotions. They didn't have the ability to help you to learn and understand yourself and to properly express your emotions in a healthy way. They may have shut you down due to their own fears of their own emotions and their own pain being unearthed. But you don't need to be afraid anymore. And you don't need to hold on to the things that don't belong to you anymore. So instead of feeling stuck, you always have the option to sit, to control your body, to breathe deeply, and to allow yourself to feel what needs to be felt. Start this journey of self-love by recognizing that you're the only one that will give yourself the permission to go on this healing journey. When you remember that no one is coming to save you, but it's your responsibility to do the work, you will start to realize that it's okay to give yourself the very things that you've always wanted, but the other people in your life did not know how to give you, and now it's your responsibility. So breathe deeply in through the nose, filling up your belly. As you release and exhale, let go of what no longer belongs to you. Inhale peace and well-being. Let go of the judgment and contempt. Inhale peace and grounded nature. And exhale, releasing that which no longer belongs to you. Spend a little time, when you can, to sit with the uncomfortable emotions. And you'll realize they're not as uncomfortable as you think. And that you have the power to confront some of the things that have been waiting far too long and been begging to be expressed. And now, the time has come for you to confront some of these things that have been holding you back from becoming the best version of yourself. And now is the time for you to learn to love yourself and give yourself that gift of being free from all those things that hold you back. Give yourself that gift. Give yourself permission. I invite you to give yourself the gift of compassion and forgiveness, and to release and let go of all the things that no longer belong to you, to be free, to live up to your higher potential. And remember that you're not alone, and that as part of this campfire community, you can always come back here, watch this video, or watch the next one, and continue to connect with other people, to grow in love and support of yourself and each other. So I invite you not only to have a relationship and deepen that relationship with yourself, but I also invite you to be a part of this community and to create a relationship with other people. It's our responsibility to heal from this pain, to let it go, and then share that gift with other people. So I hope this was helpful. If you enjoyed this time to connect with yourself and me and the rest of this community, share, like, subscribe, you know what to do. And write a comment on the bottom. Share your experience. Let me know if this was helpful for you. And I look forward to seeing you guys again.